My name is Janice Miller. I'm 62 years old, a retired school administrator living just outside Raleigh, North Carolina. I've spent the better part of my life giving my time to students, giving my heart to family, giving my everything to my son. But this one starts with a text. 8 cold little words that nearly stopped my heart. You weren't invited to dinner. My wife doesn't want you there. That was it. No greeting, no punctuation. Just that. It was sent at 6:47 p.m. on a Thursday. And I stood in my kitchen, holding my phone, dinner half cooked on the stove, my fingers trembling like they used to when I gave speeches at school board meetings. I stared at those words for so long the screen dimmed. And the worst part? I wasn't even surprised. Before I tell you what I did, before I explain how I got even in a way no one saw coming, do me a favor. If you've ever been the one who gave everything and still got pushed out, hit that like button. Subscribe if you've ever been underestimated. Because this isn't just revenge, it's a reckoning. Now let me take you back. I raised my son, Kyle, on my own after his father left us when he was 10. I didn't have much, not money, not time, and God knows not peace, but I gave that boy everything I had. I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, caught buses in the rain, skipped meals so he could have cleats for football. I never once complained, never threw it in his face. I was proud to do it. He was my world. He grew up, went to UNC, met a girl named Marissa. She was polite at first. Her smile never reached her eyes, and I always felt like I was being sized up, like I was a dented can in her shiny pantry. But I told myself I was being too sensitive. She didn't come from much either, after all. Kyle proposed. They had a beach wedding I mostly paid for. And I didn't mind. I wanted him to start strong, better than I did. They bought a house last year, a new build in a cute little cul-de-sac in Cary. I fronted the down payment. $55,000 from my retirement account, plus another $8,000 for the furniture Kyle wasn't approved for yet. I didn't think twice. That's what mothers do, right? I remember the day they moved in. Marissa barely said thank you. Kyle told me I didn't need to stay and help unpack. He said, "You've done enough already, Mom," with that tight smile of his that used to melt me. Now it just made me old, excluded. Still, I kept showing up, dropping off casseroles, helping with their dog when they traveled, paying the property taxes as a gift. It added up. Trust me, I have 211 receipts in a folder I kept on my desktop. 1 for every dollar I gave without ever being asked. Until that Thursday. It was Kyle's birthday. I'd baked his favorite, lemon cake with blueberry filling. I even had a framed photo of the 2 of us from his 5th grade graduation I wanted to surprise him with. I wore the blue scarf he bought me back in high school because I thought it might make him smile. I texted that morning. Me, can't wait to celebrate tonight. What time should I come by? Hours passed. No reply. Then at 6:47 p.m., that text came through. Kyle, you weren't invited to dinner. My wife doesn't want you there. No sorry, Mom. No we'll see you soon. Just that. My knees buckled. I sat down at the kitchen table and stared out at the yard, the cake beside me still warm, still beautiful. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I cried. Not soft tears, not the kind you wipe away with a napkin and a deep breath. I sobbed. Ugly, shaking sobs. I felt small, unwanted, like I'd overstayed my welcome in my own child's life. And then, something inside me hardened. I stood up. I walked to the fridge, packed the cake into a Tupperware container, and slid it into the trash. I deleted the text. Then I opened my laptop. I clicked on that folder, House Support Docs, and highlighted every file. There were bank transfers, tax receipts, appliance warranties, even the invoice for the ceiling fan I had installed in their nursery just in case. 211 files. I stared at them, and then I deleted them all. One click, poof, gone. And in that moment, I made a quiet promise to myself. I would not pay another dime, not for that house, not for his insurance, not for their groceries or their future baby. I would no longer fund my own erasure. I simply said, all right. You see, they thought I was just a tired old woman, a giver, a fallback, the one who always said yes. They forgot where I came from. They forgot who made Kyle's life possible. And now? Now I was going to let them remember. After I deleted the receipts, I sat in silence. Not angry, not even hurt anymore, just empty. I went about the next few days like a ghost. I still woke up at 6, made coffee, put on lipstick, even if I wasn't going anywhere. Old habits die slow. But something inside me had shifted, like a broken bone finally deciding not to heal. I didn't tell anyone, not my sister, not my church friends, not even the nice neighbor across the street who always brings my trash bin back. Because if I spoke it out loud, it would be real. And I wasn't ready for that. 3 days later, Kyle called. Hey, Mom, did you cancel the auto draft for the HOA fees? His voice was tight, clipped. Not apologetic, more like someone calling a hotel because the water pressure's low. I stirred my coffee and stared out the window. The birds were loud that morning. I did, I said, as calm as can be. There was a long pause on the other end. I could almost hear Marissa whispering in the background. Okay, well, can you turn it back on? They sent us a warning notice. Marissa's really stressed, and I'm sure she is. Silence again. He tried to smooth his voice. Is something wrong? I laughed, just a breath. No, sweetheart. Everything is finally right. I hung up. That was the moment I think he realized something had changed. But not enough to actually apologize. Not enough to show up at my door and say, I'm sorry, Mom, I messed up. Instead, they started playing the polite game. I got a Christmas card in the mail. No handwritten note, just a photo of them in matching pajamas holding their dog like he was a child. I got a text from Marissa 2 weeks later. Hi, Janice. Hope you're doing well. Would love to drop off some of Kyle's childhood books for when we have a nursery. I didn't reply. Not out of spite, but because I finally understood the role they had written for me in their lives. The banker, the babysitter, the background character, and I was done auditioning for a part I never agreed to play. But here's where things get messy. I still had access. The mortgage, in my name. The insurance, I paid the premiums directly. Even the landscaping contract, my account. You'd be surprised how many things a couple in their 30s will let someone else quietly handle as long as it doesn't make noise. So, I started making noise. Not out loud, not in a way they could trace, but in the system. I called the mortgage lender and had the auto pay halted. Not defaulted, just paused. I wanted them to feel the pressure of the paperwork. I ended the landscaping agreement. The very next week, the lawn started browning. I called the home insurance company and asked for policy clarification. If the primary insured removes themselves from the plan, what happens? I asked. The rep said they'd send paperwork. I smiled. But the final straw, the thing that cracked me open all over again, was a baby shower invitation. It came in a mass email from Marissa's friends. Let's celebrate baby Miller. Gifts can be sent to their registry. Link below. Nowhere on the invite did it mention grandparents. There was no hosted by Janice or even Marissa and Kyle's family. Just friends, coworkers, and a few influencers I recognized from TikTok. I wasn't even included on the guest list CC'd in the email header. I had become invisible. I called my sister that night. First time I talked about it. "You have to confront them," she said. "Tell them what they're doing. Demand some damn respect." I swirled the tea in my mug and said, "You can't demand what someone never intended to give." That's silence again. But it wasn't sadness anymore. It was clarity. They didn't want a mother. They wanted a donor. So I became neither. I contacted a lawyer the following week. Not to sue, not to threaten, just to remove myself from everything I still held. The house title, I signed the quitclaim and mailed it to Kyle. No note, just the legal document and a sticky note that said, "Handle your own affairs now." The insurance? Canceled. The property tax? Not my problem anymore. And then I cleaned house, literally. I found an old bin in the attic filled with Kyle's things, crayon drawings, a chipped trophy from middle school, even a letter he wrote me once on Mother's Day. "You're the best person I know." I burned it all in the fire pit behind my porch. It wasn't rage, it was release. But here's where the twist happens. 3 weeks later, I was in line at Harris Teeter when I saw someone familiar. Marissa's mother, Judy. She was standing by the flowers, face tight, talking into her phone. She didn't see me, but I heard her. "No, I told Marissa this would happen. You don't treat people like that and expect the money to keep coming. Well, she better call Janice before she ends up back in an apartment." I froze. So she knew. She knew everything. And that meant Marissa knew too. They weren't just clueless, they were calculated. They used me. And now the walls were starting to close in. That night, I got a text. "Kyle, can we come over tomorrow? We need to talk." My stomach turned. Not because I missed them, but because I finally saw them for who they really were. I didn't reply. Instead, I set out 2 chairs on the porch and watched the sun go down, wondering, would he come as my son or as a stranger who finally realized the bank was closed?
I didn't sleep the night before they came. I wasn't nervous, just still. You know that feeling when the power goes out and the house is so quiet it makes your ears ring? That was me. Sitting in my living room with the lights off, drinking cold tea and watching the porch light flicker like it couldn't decide whether to stay on or burn out. I left the front door unlocked the next morning. Not out of warmth, just to avoid the awkwardness of pretending I didn't know why they were here. At 9:07 a.m., I heard the knock anyway. It was Kyle. Alone. I opened the door and saw the same boy I'd raised, but older now, not wiser, just worn down in the way people get when they realize the ground they've been walking on was borrowed. He looked at the chairs I'd set out on the porch. "Can we talk inside?" I shook my head. "I prefer the air." We sat down. The cushions were still damp from the morning dew. I didn't offer coffee. He took a deep breath, like he was preparing for a court hearing. "I'm sorry, Mom. About the dinner. About everything." I didn't say anything. Let the silence do the work. He kept going. "I didn't realize how much we were asking of you. I guess I just thought you were okay with it." I tilted my head. "You thought I was okay being erased?" He flinched. His eyes got glossy, but he blinked it away. Marissa said, you didn't like coming to the house, that you made her uncomfortable. I didn't want to rock the boat. I nodded slowly. So, you capsized mine instead. He sighed, and for a moment I saw that 10-year-old boy who used to curl up in bed with me when it stormed. But I wasn't the same woman who used to pull the blankets over his head and tell him it was all going to be okay. Because it wasn't. Not anymore. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. This is the new mortgage agreement. I took your name off. You don't owe anything now. It's ours. I wanted to give you that peace of mind. I took the paper but didn't look at it. Not because I didn't care, but because I'd already found peace in a much harder way. I already had peace, I said, the minute I stopped begging to be seen. Kyle looked down at his hands, thumbs rubbing against each other the way his father used to when he knew he'd messed up but didn't want to say it. Mom, I don't know how to fix this. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something close to mercy. Because he was right. He couldn't fix it. Some things don't go back the way they were. But that didn't mean we had to stay broken. You don't have to fix it, I said gently. You just have to stop expecting me to be the one holding it all together. He nodded. We sat for a few more minutes, watching a squirrel try to drag a full apple up the neighbor's fence. It was absurd, a little sad, a little funny, like life. Before he left, he looked at me one last time and said, "Do you think you'll ever want to meet the baby?" I stared at him. Then said, "When I feel like a guest, not a ghost." And I closed the door. In the weeks that followed, I didn't hear much from him. A few texts, a photo of the baby's ultrasound. I saved it, but didn't respond. I wasn't angry anymore. I just wasn't obligated. And that felt like the most radical kind of freedom. I started volunteering at the public library, teaching adult literacy classes. One of my students was a 67-year-old Vietnam vet who'd never told anyone he couldn't read. When he sounded out the word tomorrow for the first time, he cried. I did too. I planted a garden. Tomatoes, squash, a few stubborn roses. My hands haven't felt that useful in years. And I booked a solo train trip up the East Coast. Just me, a backpack, and the silence I used to be so afraid of. Turns out, silence can be holy when it's yours. I haven't seen the baby yet. I might, one day, but on my terms. Not because I'm needed, because I'm invited. There's a difference. You know, people always talk about revenge like it has to be loud, smashing windows, burning bridges, calling people out. But sometimes, revenge is just living your life without them. Letting the silence speak for you. Choosing your peace over their comfort. I was the bank, the backbone, the background. Now I'm just Janice. And that's enough. Sometimes the best revenge is remembering who you were before they made you forget. If this story hit close to home, or if you've ever found yourself starting over when they thought you'd never walk away, go ahead and give this video a like. Leave a comment with your own story of healing, boundaries, or sweet justice. And don't forget to subscribe because around here, we don't just get even. We rise. See you in the next story.